Alright, well we're here on a 4v4 with Nix's Eye. We're doing something different with the cast today. We've got a bit of an overlay that I'm testing out, so let me know down below if you like it, want to see some improvements to it or anything better. What else would you like to see on stream during these types of videos? Yeah, just let us know. The ANS Charger is a beam battleship, so 3 beams. It's going to be very power intensive, and it's got one additional craft, being an EWAR corvette with blanket jammers and a comms jammer. SSV looks like a spyglass corvette there because of no mounts. Let's see the rest of his fleet. And it looks like missile destroyers, roll-offs with some cannons, bullseye radar, and a 250. EWAR frigate there. It looks like 3 of the same type, and VLS 23s on the front as counter defense. If we go high, EXTE has a rail battleship, so 4 rails. And where's his other ship? Nearby as well, so a frigate with a pinard and auroras, so point defense for this one. So EXTE is going to require the other ships to provide the locks in order to get the rails to really do their damage. So what have we done? We've seen 1, 2, 3. Let's check out the last player. Over on the orange team, the UNSC Gorgon has beams. So a beam fleet, which we sort of correctly predicted. So the standard sort of beam loadouts being 3 beam destroyers and a central frigate. So this one here has comms jamming, radar jamming, and some support in the form of point defense. Over on Team Blue, we've already got the one engaging with rails. So just a single ship here by the looks of it. Yeah, 4 rails. Probably big enough to hold its own. If we jump to the left, we've got TNRS with the main and worst, cannon heavy cruiser with comms jammer, and the Holt. VLS 23s and a blanket jammer. Oh, on a beam destroyer. Okay, interesting. And so 2 beam destroyers and a cannon. So that's going to get nice and close in. If we have a look in the middle, LMC Sulky. LMC looks like a EWAR corvette / point defense. Be great to be able to see these, like what's inside them and their damage control boards. Supported with a rail heavy cruiser and some supporting corvettes and frigates. Comms jamming, radar jamming, and a missile corvette there. And finally, if we look at ST, roll-off missile heavy cruiser, and we've got both a jamming and lock type frigate. There should be some more, but that's all right. So if we get into the action, the one over here, over on point D is moving into cap. We're going to have the UNSC fleet, the beam fleet, coming around the corner. So it's going low. You can see here that they are using terrain very, very well, getting down and underneath. It'd be interesting to know if they can actually see that battleship, maybe, because it is big enough. That something else should be able to provide that. And no doubt the SSV here can see the one. So they definitely know where it is. And this is probably getting an angle ready to go. Up high, we've got a bit of a collision here. The frigate is getting tangled with the battleship, but the battleship's just pushing it along. They can see the beam fleet coming around the corner. Visually, if not on the tracks. That one's pushing forward. We're likely to see it just move into point A. That one's probably going to go high, but it's using the train as cover here as well. So you can see probably the light cruiser, 2 frigates and a corvette. And we've got the missile destroyers hanging back, being that support element. So point B is largely going to be uncontested for the blue fleet. We'll get the first capture for blue being over on point D from the 1, so that battleship's going to be able to hold, but once this fleet with beams gets close, the rails may overpen, may not do as much damage there. Otherwise they have vision and everyone's just jockeying into position. So the blue team's going to have eyes on the ANS Charger, and that's the one that with the beam, so you just got to keep that in mind. And the Warden Lion looks like it's moving past, so it's either going to go for a capture of point C. No. We've got some gals coming out from the missile cruiser being shot down towards Warden Lion. I can't see if it has a illuminator on, so we'll just follow these in. Rail shots coming out. I think they were just fired into space. They are quite cheap, so you can sort of do that, but they start to turn, so that someone has an illuminator, we'll go find that. And we get a couple hits. Get one missile hit and that will be enough to damage it, whilst the rails from the LMC Curly Till, with repeated strikes, this one's going to go down. Potentially a little bit far forward, but you know, it did its job, it's found out what it needs to find. The one sitting on point D can't shoot anything at the moment. The fleet from the USNC is pulling behind, as is the one just keeping those angles of fire away whilst it maintains the point. Good manoeuvring there by both fleets. Those rails will do some damage for the beams if they get close, but the beams can also hurt that battleship if they get close enough. Hurricanes being fired out from the ST Luxie. Probably trying to finish off this corvette. Probably not seeing that it is already destroyed, just an indicator. You can tell if a ship's destroyed if it starts to launch out its life pods, or if you see this sort of space oil or smoke. So you could have saved these hurricanes, but you know, sometimes it's hard to tell. And there we go, life pods start to eject. Shaky telescope. See down on point E, which is now being captured by orange. Battleship, the Charger, ANS Charger, has gone in. And it's probably just sitting up here jamming. It's got a comms jammer there, you can see it's active, it's looking. TNRS continues to move around to point B, they're completely unopposed. So blue team off to a very good lead. They've got 3 points to the 1 for E, and they'll get the 4th when they capture point B. We've got a large missile salvo being fired by orange, so all these missile destroyers launching gales, and they may be going for the 1. The 1 looks like it's activating. Oh no, looks like it's moving backwards, but it's sort of moving backwards into the path of the gales. I thought it was initially going to go forward and try and burn out of there. No chaff deployed yet, but the auto deploy probably hasn't gone off. We've got gale shots coming out from the blue fleet, being countered by the ripostes from the ANS Charger, while the Flark starts to engage from the 1, taking out the gales. It looks like with the roll-offs, the swarms aren't big enough to get onto the 1, with the amount of flak being able to put out enough to sort of destroy the incoming missiles. Whilst it's got its railguns firing up high on the Charger, so that's the beam battleship getting in nice and close. A couple missiles get in there. I haven't found that illuminator as to who's illuminating, or if these are just being fired off in a pattern that allows them to eventually hit. And we've lost a player. Soccer Dog has disconnected, and that's quite unfortunate. It's likely just an internet connection. I think he was in charge of the ANS charger, so it is firing. I'm not sure what's going on there, to be honest. But the one continues to engage with Gales. No, it is destroyed. It's got the space oil and the life pods. The Gale's now hitting right into the one. So it's just copying it at its broadside. It looks like an atmospheric leak there. No chaff. No chaff being deployed on this battleship. Should always look for a little bit of chaff. It really does help. Something's going on there. And I'm not sure what. Gales coming in now from both sides. Oh, Hurricanes. It's coming off from the beam fleet. As they meet the Gales to continue to fight the one. And they're just hitting broadside. Most of that point defense is now stripped off. And you see as it starts to roll. While that happens, the fleet over on the left-hand side of the map is capturing point D. So blue in the lead. They have taken out one battleship and team over on the orange side. However, it looks like they are also going to lose one of their own battleships on their side as well. So a sort of an even trade. We've got more Gales coming out. A lot of Auroras there. The Extreme. A lot of Auroras on both sides. And with its Auroras from its point defense / sort of EWA ship, negates all of those. Rounds continuing to go into the ANS fleet. However, they may not be able to see that they're dead, or they're just wanting to make sure. You can see that the life pods now leave the map. So that's a nice quality of life improvement. And there goes the one. EXTE, I apologise, is now moving in to capture point A. Gales and Hurricanes actually launching from these missile frigates. So using VLSs. And they're continuing to go down onto the ANS charger. So there's no need to continue with all these missiles. However, again, they may not know it's destroyed. And continuing the fact that it continues to fire a beam every so often, it's a bit interesting as to why that occurs. There we go, because it should be destroyed. Maybe they keep thinking that it's active, and frankly, if I was a player, I would probably do the same. But space oil means it's destroyed, and we can see sort of two space oil clouds here, 1 and 2. They do sort of drift away from the ships. So it's not always accurate. See here, it's sort of in and around. It's not directly on top of. A's being captured by EXTE now. Looks like it's got 3 of its cannons traversing down to engage the LMC Curry, which is returning fire. So those shots are missing overhead. Oh, except one goes through the bridge. Excellent. It's going to start to burn and get behind this terrain. It's got its supporting craft in tow. They seem to be fine, and likewise the point defense ship / EWA ship is still fine. More Gales and Hurricanes coming out. Let's actually have a look for, is there any VLS and chaff on this one? No. Plenty of Auroras though. Good range, good damage, but they do have that 25 to 30 second cooldown time. So this is where they're going to have to eventually, after their five or six pulses each, they're going to stop and then all have to cool down at the same time. And this allows these Gales to get nice and close. And we've lost another ship down there. That could have been the Charger. Rails now engaging ST Kushner Cloud, and these Auroras may actually get there. Yep, they do a perfect job, cleaned it all up. Rails from the Exterminate probably can't make that range yet. Life pods off in the distance. So now Orange has moved into Cap D. Let's have a look at the Charger, see if it's destroyed. Okay, so it's destroyed because as a spectator we can only see what's on the screen. We did get no additional information. We can't see where the Illuminator is. We can't see where the jamming is. And we certainly can't see if they mark targets as high priority or anything like that. So we're sort of sometimes a little bit less able to see what the players can see. But Gale's coming out now from these destroyers, making their way over to the heavy cruiser. We're getting some riposte counter launched. We've got Auroras opening, but there may not be enough point defense here, and I don't think there will, just looking at how many there are, but it is strafing. But Illuminators must be on as they start to engage. Chaff deployed, but not early enough. It looks like it was, oh yep, there it goes, but we're going to get a couple already in there. 2, 3 missiles, so at least 2 hits, otherwise the rest moved. So good response there from TRNS. Cruiser's moving up and away. Can't see what it's firing at. Probably going to go up under Exterminate. More Gales being launched. But we've got Auroras positioned on both sides that are able to engage as a bit of a counterpoint. NAC Ruled is moving away, and we've got the Flak from TNRS engaging and destroying those. So Blue's only down to 2 points opposed to 3, but it does have a healthy lead. Each of these ships are able to provide mutual support in terms of point defense, although it looks like we may actually get a few in there. Yep, quite a number of missiles hit TRNS NAC Ruled, and that one is ruled out of the game. Little pun there. But now that is destroyed, you can see the Space Cloud and Space Oil being deployed. Point D captured. They can now move into support this main missile fleet. However, with the amount of missiles being fired, they'll eventually run out, which is dangerous. If you don't have any offensive capabilities left on your team, you do then lose the game. So just a point there. Otherwise, points B and C held by Blue. E comfortably held by Orange. And these missile JDees. And with a few guns just being able to engage this beam destroyer here. I believe Orange is AP. I think they're firing armor penetration. And we've got Gales now being fired. TNRS Holt is going to rotate to bring its both point defense online. And NAC Ruled suffering an explosion there. Chaff being deployed, Aurora's shooting down the Gales with supporting flak fire from the main and worst, as Orange now seems to be moving closer into the map. This jamming corvette just sitting below the map, shooting upwards. So it's pretty far down and below. Remembering making good use of three-dimensional space. Although all the beam ships now starting to angle up. Not really being targeted, just largely being left alone. So with all these roll-off Gales, it's almost like every 30-40 seconds you get another mass launch. Like Tutorial 6, Advanced Missile Tactics, SSV has positioned his Gales really well. Chaff's coming out, Aurora's coming out, a lot of them seeking, but from this angle, the Chaff even is not going to actually pull too many away as they then come back up. So we've got a couple engine hits there. Exterminate continuing to do what its namesake says, just taking out these little spotter craft. These can be really annoying as the game wears on, as they start to move around and capture points. Blue's still only got 2, but it does have a healthy lead. This looks like to be about 1,500, because that's about 5,000, 1,500. Well, beams coming out. The beam destroyers have engaged. Battleship's going to reorientate now to engage that. So the Hull beam destroyer supported by the cannon heavy cruiser. These next missile salvos from the blue team are going to be real important, because this point defense is now going to be destroyed, or even parts of, and at the moment a full point defense complement of Auroras between these two ships have kept them safe, but as they start to go offline, it's going to open little holes in the armor. The beam destroyer being focused by the rail battleship. Although it is in turn doing a fair amount of damage. You can see here it's lost 1, 2, at least 2 Auroras there. Rails are still fine as the beam seems to play up over the bow. And now the bridge. That antenna looks like it's offline, and here comes those gals we just spoke about. Actually, sorry, these are the gals for the other team. Heavy cruisers just charging forward, getting some penetrating, some over-penetrating rail shots onto this destroyer. So it rotates now to engage itself once again onto exterminate. Orange quickly starting to make up the ground that blue established really early in the game. They could probably move one ship over to capture point B. Hurricanes launching out from these beam destroyers, looking to protect exterminate as the main and worst pops flak. See if is there any accompanying gale fight. Are there any accompanying gales? Because that would really distract. Main and worst pops chaff, but not effective against hurricanes. And you may be realising that too late, but unfortunately there's not much else you can do at that point. Hurricane's missing either due to comms jamming or the lack of the lock, but they do come back around. Yep, 2 hits. Beams getting that nice enfilade fire. Hurricanes continue to circle. Sea Whiz fired from the defenders. Thunderhead's coming down from the LMC spam as it fires all its beams, potentially battle shorting as Thunderheads impact Hercules as gales come into main and worst. They've lost Hull, but the Hercules took a little bit of damage, but it's still being able to continue firing. Its point defense is looking for more targets, but the Sulky Pine, that one's down, and the Spasm, which is that missile corvette from the beginning, just hiding behind the rock, firing around using waypoints. Hercules now firing for its life. Its defenders countering these hurricanes fairly well from this front-on position, but with its ability, it looks like it's probably going to survive. It looks like it's going to survive. Beams from the Gorgon and Pioneer up onto Luxie. Oh, this is just a missile frigate, so it doesn't really have anything left to fight back with. We haven't really given the LMC Curly a lot of love. However, they are firing the rails down. Orange is catching up here. Looks like these destroyers are starting to maneuver around. Alright, ripostes being fired from this fleet in support of gales, I think. Yep, so they're using ripostes to draw the point defense from the Curly, so that then gales can penetrate a little bit further. Chaff being deployed as the heavy cruiser starts to move downwards. Although it's now caught in a bit of a crossfire between beams from the Gorgon and gales. Flak being deployed. Chaff out. And it survives the gales, but the beam's catching it right in the just underneath its rear mount, which looks like it's been destroyed. Looks like Pioneer will also reorientate to now 2 beams being fired into the backside of the LMC Curly. And that's definitely being battle shorted. SSV looks like his ships are still fine as it starts to engage the LMC Spasm, that Corvette ship that was hiding before. That's our RPF rounds. You see they're detonating in and around, just creating little fragments of damage. That one detonated super close. Alright, let's get back and have a look at how these beams are going. Gorgon here looks like it's on cooldown, as is the Pioneer still orientating to its target. But we've got beam destroyers here, we've got missile destroyers there, we've still got a rail battleship with its point defense ship as well. It took some damage, but you know, it's using really good cover here to be kept out of sight. Lifeboats continue to vacate the map as Orange starts to claw back into Blue's lead, only a couple points away. Give it another minute or so, they should take over. Curly Till being taking beams into its rear. It's lost its bottom turret and looks like it's trying to turn. The Hercules here engaging LMC Spasm. As the shaky telescope dies for point A to capture it, should be able to easily get there. Deluxe's dropping hurricanes down onto this missile fleet with ripostes in point defense area engaging in return. With only a couple missiles, those ripostes will easily be able to take them out. One missed, but looks like Chaff dealt with the rest. Hurricanes again going out, but the Pioneer and the Gorgon countering that with their point defense turrets combined. Beams, however, from the Pioneer now into the Luxie as the Gorgon continues to after the Curly Till. Bit of damage there. It's probably got those 2 VLS 23s. 2 VLS 16, sorry. The 23 up the top is destroyed, or at least damaged as it's smoking, whilst the Curly Till's now taking beams into its engine. So it's only a matter of time before the Till goes down and is no longer able to use or maneuver its engines, in which case the Gorgon then will have a field day just getting in nice and close. Got RPF rounds coming off from the 120 mils over on the destroyers here. Not popping anywhere near as close to cause damage. Yep, stand corrected. There's one right over the top. Looks like it's taken out that rear turret. You don't really see the RPF rounds a lot, to be honest. Usually players take HE. The Luxie continues to take damage. It's only a matter of time, so the red lights are on. It's got fires internally. Now Blue's capping A back, so the shaky telescope in the middle going to capture point A, taking it from Orange as the lead ties a little bit closer, 942 to 912, but HE from the 120mm on these destroyers here. Sorry, they are 250, so it's got 250s there into the shaky telescope. Couple missed, couple hit. There you go, another hit there. As it veers off and away, it's done its job, it's captured A. Less than 20 minutes to go. However, if we have a quick survey of the battle, we can see that Blue's really only got a few points left. It's only got A and B. They've only got the shaky telescope, which is taking some damage in the middle, while the Looksie's been taking the beam, and the LMC Curly Till's pursued by the Pioneer and the Gorgon, as well as this missile fleet with 250s and 120s. So in this point in this game, I would say at this point in the game, Orange has taken the win. They have the majority of the ships left. Whilst they only have 2 points, they do have the ability to go capture more, as they now do capture A back with the UNSC Hercules, which now is firing its beam into the shaky telescope's rear, whilst it continues to be engaged with HE from the SSVs. Curly Till's still operational. The beams from the Gorgon now going towards stem and start, which has been destroyed and is popping its lifeboat, so they're down another ship. They've only got 2 ships left on the blue team at the moment, as SSV's missiles now start to engage and support the UNSC Gorgon. And here we go, ripostes being fired, soon to be followed by other missiles, I imagine, just wearing down the chaff. And there we go, so we forced out another chaff as more 250 HE fired, and the beams from the Gorgon now coming in as well. Chaff continues to be deployed, probably in preparation for any other missiles, but none are being fired at this point. Orange almost catching up to blue in points. The rails from the Exterminate now coming out to engage the Curly as it starts to move down and away. These beams are super accurate. I imagine there is a lock from any one of these ships here to provide that accuracy. The Gorgon just having a field day, sitting there. The Curly, unfortunately, is in a position where the beam destroyer is just, whatever it does is really going to hit those critical parts, and it's got a flanking force and something from the long range in the rear. It doesn't matter how good you are, this is one of those scenarios where it's really hard to fight back, especially when you've already taken a significant amount of damage. He's lost his railgun there, and the poor Curly is just continuing to take multiple damage. It's 2 beam destroyers now. It's got 250 HE on it. It's got rails from a battleship coming in. And GG's called. So that's a win to Orange. They would have come back on points eventually. They did have most points towards the end, but they had most of their ships. And the fact they had most of their ships is what ultimately has given them this victory. That was a really good game. Well done to Team 2 for their victory. Started a bit behind, but obviously their team coordination and fleet composition and positioning end up being what won them the day. And they took it home, even though their amount of points towards the end were still behind. They eliminated all the other ships and took away the offensive capability of the LMC Curly Till, being the last ship standing for the blue team. So well done, Team 2. Let me know how the overlay went and what you think of it.